When the DoorDash driver handed me my food at my son's front door, he didn't let go of the bag. Instead, he leaned in close and whispered, "Ma'am, don't eat anything they give you tonight. In about 5 minutes, you're going to understand why. Just trust me." I stood there frozen, the warm bag of Chinese food suspended between us. Behind me, I could hear my son Kevin laughing at something on television, completely unaware of what was happening at his own front door. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. The driver, a young black man, maybe 35 years old with tired eyes and an eagle's cap pulled low, glanced over my shoulder into the house. His jaw tightened. "The fortune cookies," he said quietly. "Don't eat them. Don't drink anything you didn't pour yourself. And whatever you do,
The truth is,
don't
I never
sign
really
any
thought
papers
I'd find
tonight.
myself here, sharing
None.
this story with all
Do
of
you
you.
understand me?"
It's been a journey of
Before I could
self-discovery,
respond,
filled with moments
Kevin
that
appeared
challenged
behind
everything I
me,
knew.
his hand warm on my shoulder. "Mom, you're letting all the cold air in." "Thanks, buddy, we got it from here." The driver released the bag, but his eyes stayed locked on mine for one long moment. Then he nodded once, turned, and walked back to his car. But he didn't drive away. I watched through the living room window as he pulled to the curb across the street and just sat there, engine running, headlights off. Let me back up. I know how this sounds, like the opening of some Lifetime movie, but I promise you, every word I'm about to tell you is true. My name is Dorothy Mitchell, though everyone's called me Dottie since I was 6 years old. I'm 67, a retired fourth-grade teacher from the Philadelphia public school system, and 2 years ago, I buried my husband Frank after 43 years of marriage. Frank was a good man, a plumber by trade, but an inventor at heart. He was always tinkering with something in the garage, convinced he was one patent away from changing our lives. He never did get that patent, but he left me comfortable. Our house in Germantown was paid off. His pension and Social Security kept me fed. And he'd been smart enough to invest in some rental properties back in the 80s when nobody else saw the potential in our neighborhood. Those properties are worth about $2 million now. I found that out 6 months ago when my son Kevin started asking questions. Kevin is my youngest. I have 2 children, my daughter Patricia, who lives in Denver with her husband and my 3 beautiful granddaughters, and Kevin, who stayed local. He works in pharmaceutical sales, drives a BMW, and married a woman named Stephanie 3 years ago, right after Frank's diagnosis. After Frank died, Kevin started coming around more. At first, I was grateful. Patricia called every Sunday and visited twice a year. But Kevin was here. He'd stop by after work, bring dinner, help me sort through Frank's things. He hired someone to clean out the garage. He suggested I let him handle the rental properties so I wouldn't have to deal with tenant complaints. "Mom, you've worked hard your whole life," he'd say, his hand on mine across my kitchen table. "Let me take care of things now." That's what sons are for. I should have seen it then. The way Stephanie's eyes would linger on the china cabinet Frank's mother had left us. The way Kevin started asking about my will, about whether I had a financial advisor, about how much the house was really worth. But I was lonely. I missed Frank so much some nights I couldn't breathe. And when your child offers you love and attention, you don't question it. You drink it in like water in a desert. 3 weeks ago, Kevin called me on a Tuesday evening. "Mom, I need a huge favor." Tyler's birthday is Saturday, and Stephanie's been planning this whole surprise dinner for him. Family only, nothing big. But here's the thing. We need you to come over around 8, after he gets home from basketball practice. Can you do that? Tyler is Kevin's stepson, Stephanie's boy from her first marriage. He'd just turned 16, a quiet kid who seemed uncomfortable around me. We'd never really bonded. 8 o'clock? That seems late for dinner, I'd said. "I know, but the surprise won't work otherwise. Please, Mom? It would mean the world to Stephanie. She's really trying to make you feel like part of the family." That should have been my second warning. Stephanie had never tried to make me feel like anything except an inconvenience. But I said yes. Of course I said yes. He was my son. So there I was, Saturday night, standing in Kevin's living room with a warm bag of Chinese food and a stranger's warning echoing in my head. Stephanie emerged from the kitchen, her smile too wide, too bright. "Dottie, you made it. Here, let me take that. Did you have trouble finding parking?" She took the food bag from my hands before I could respond, disappearing back into the kitchen. Kevin guided me to the couch, his hand firm on my elbow. Tyler should be home any minute. We've got everything set up in the dining room. Stephanie ordered from that Chinese place you like, the one on Chelton Avenue. I sat down heavily, my mind racing. The delivery driver's words played on repeat. Don't eat anything. Don't drink anything. Don't sign any papers. Where's Tyler now? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Practice ran late. He's on his way. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. No balloons, no decorations. For a surprise birthday dinner, there was nothing that suggested celebration. Kevin, what's really going on? He looked at me, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Irritation? Impatience? It vanished so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. What do you mean? It's Tyler's birthday, Mom. Relax. Stephanie returned with a tray. Tea for you, Dottie.
I never told anyone about
I know you
this
don't
before,
like to eat too late, so I made sure we'd
but it
have
happened on a
appetizers
Tuesday,
first.
and
She
I'll
set
never
down a cup
forget
of
the
steaming
feeling.
liquid and a small plate of fortune cookies. I stared at the tea. At the fortune cookies. The delivery driver's face flashed through my mind. Actually, I'm not feeling well. My stomach's been off all day. Could I just have some water? I'll get it myself. I stood up before either of them could respond, walking to the kitchen on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Through the kitchen window, I could see the street. The delivery driver's car was still there, parked in the shadow between streetlights. I filled a glass from the tap, my hands trembling. When I turned around, Stephanie was standing in the doorway watching me. Are you sure you're all right, Dottie? You seem nervous. Just tired. It's been a long week. Well, Kevin has some paperwork he needs you to look at while we wait for Tyler. Just boring financial stuff, but it can't wait. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. You know how these things are. The paperwork was spread across the dining room table when I returned. Kevin was already seated, a pen in his hand. Mom, sit down. This won't take long. I lowered myself into the chair across from him, my glass of water clutched like a lifeline. What is all this? Kevin shuffled through the pages. Just some updates to your financial accounts. The rental properties need to be restructured for tax purposes. And there's a new power of attorney form since the old one had some errors. I leaned forward, trying to read the documents upside down. Kevin, I'm not signing anything tonight. This is supposed to be a birthday party. Mom. His voice hardened. We've talked about this. You're getting older. You forget things. Last month you left the stove on twice. I didn't leave the stove on. That was the burner that's been broken for 3 years. See? Kevin looked at Stephanie. She doesn't even remember. Remember what? I felt heat rising to my face. Kevin, what is going on? The doorbell rang. Stephanie moved toward the door, but Kevin held up his hand. Let me get it. I heard voices in the foyer. Low, professional. Then footsteps, multiple sets, coming toward the dining room. 2 men in white uniforms appeared in the doorway. Behind them, a woman with a clipboard and a tight, professional smile. Mrs. Mitchell? I'm Dr. Patricia Okafor from Meadowbrook Behavioral Health. Your son has expressed some concerns about your mental state, and we're here to conduct an evaluation. My heart stopped. Evaluation? What evaluation? Kevin stood up, his face arranged in an expression of concern so practiced it made my skin crawl. Mom, please. I've been worried about you for months. The confusion, the memory lapses, the paranoia. Dr. Okafor is here to help. I am not confused. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the hardwood. And I am certainly not paranoid. Kevin, tell these people to leave. But Kevin wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Dr. Okafor. She does this, he said softly. She gets agitated, aggressive. We've been documenting it for months. Documenting what? I was shouting now, and I knew how I sounded. I knew exactly what they wanted me to sound like. Kevin, I am your mother. What are you doing? The woman with the clipboard stepped forward. Mrs. Mitchell, if you'll just calm down, we can explain everything. Your son has filed for emergency conservatorship based on evidence of cognitive decline. We're simply here to transport you to our facility for a 72-hour evaluation. I am not going anywhere. Mom, please. Kevin's voice was gentle, soothing, the voice he'd used when he was 10 and wanted extra dessert. This is for your own good. I've been so worried. You'll get the help you need, and when you're better, you can come home. but something in his eyes told me the truth. I would never come home. Not to my house anyway. My house would be sold. My rental properties would be liquidated, my bank accounts would be emptied, and I would spend the rest of my life in a facility, drugged and dismissed, while my son spent my money. I looked at the papers on the table, the power of attorney forms, the conservatorship petition, my signature line, waiting. "No," I said, my voice steady now. "I'm not signing anything, and I'm not going anywhere with these people. Mrs. Mitchell." Dr. Okafor's tone shifted, becoming harder. "Under Pennsylvania law, your son has the authority to act in your best interest. You can come voluntarily, or we can proceed with an involuntary commitment. It's your choice." But it wasn't really a choice, was it? Then the doorbell rang again. Everyone froze. "I'll get it," Stephanie said quickly, but one of the men in white was already moving. He opened the door, and the DoorDash driver stood on the porch. Except now he wasn't wearing a DoorDash uniform. He was wearing a jacket that said APS on the back, Adult Protective Services. "Good evening," he said calmly. "I'm Marcus Thompson, investigator with Philadelphia Adult Protective Services, and you're all going to step away from Mrs. Mitchell right now." Behind him, I could see more cars pulling up, unmarked sedans, a police cruiser. "What the hell is this?" Kevin's voice cracked. "Mom, did you call someone?" "I didn't. I couldn't. I had no idea who this man was or why he was there, but I knew, in that moment, that he was the only thing standing between me and the rest of my life in a locked ward. Mrs. Mitchell. Marcus stepped into the house, his eyes never leaving the men in white. "Are you here voluntarily?" "No." My voice was barely a whisper. "Have you signed any documents tonight?" "No." "Have you been offered food or drink that you haven't consumed?" "Yes. Tea. Fortune cookies." Marcus nodded, then turned to Dr. Okafor. "I'd recommend you step outside. The police will want to speak with you about fraudulent commitment proceedings." "This is outrageous." Kevin moved toward me. "This is my mother. I have every right to be concerned about her health." Marcus blocked his path. "Sir, I've been investigating you for 6 weeks. We have records of the shell companies you've set up to receive transfers from your mother's accounts. We have emails between you and Dr. Okafor discussing the commitment timeline. And we have testimony from a former employee at Meadowbrook about patients who were committed for financial exploitation rather than medical necessity." He looked at me. "Mrs. Mitchell, your son has already transferred approximately $400,000 from your rental income accounts to his own holdings. Tonight's plan was to get you to sign a conservatorship document and then commit you to Meadowbrook, where you would be held indefinitely while he liquidated the rest of your assets." The world tilted. $400,000. Kevin had stolen $400,000 from me, and tonight he was going to steal the rest. My house, my freedom, my life. "Mom, that's not true." Kevin's face was pale now, his charm crumbling. "Mom, please. You have to believe me. This is a misunderstanding." I looked at my son, my baby boy, who I'd nursed through chickenpox and childhood nightmares and a broken heart when his high school girlfriend left him. My Kevin, who used to bring me flowers on Mother's Day and call me just to say he loved me. That Kevin was gone. Maybe he'd never existed. "I don't believe you," I said quietly, "and I don't think I ever will again." The police took Kevin and Stephanie away in handcuffs. Dr. Okafor and her team were detained for questioning. The house fell silent, except for the sound of officers moving through rooms, photographing documents, collecting evidence. Marcus sat with me on the couch while I gave my statement. "How did you know?" I asked him when the detective finally stepped away.
I never
"How did you
thought
know to
I'd
be
find
here tonight?"
myself in this position.
He was quiet for a moment,
looking back
then
at all the
sighed.
decisions
"Your daughter
that led
Patricia
me here.
called us 2 months ago. She said something felt wrong, that Kevin was becoming too involved in your finances, asking too many questions about your properties. She said you didn't sound like yourself on the phone, like you were reciting lines someone else had written." "Patricia?" But she never said anything to me. She was scared of being wrong, scared of tearing the family apart over nothing, so she called our office anonymously and asked us to look into it. Marcus leaned forward. "Mrs. Mitchell, your daughter saved your life. When we started investigating, we found that Kevin had been planning this for over a year. Stephanie was the one who introduced him to Dr. Okafor. They had a whole network. This wasn't his first victim. I felt sick. There were others? 3 that we know of. All elderly, all widowed, all with children who helped facilitate the exploitation. Most of them are still in facilities right now, heavily medicated. We're working to get them out. I thought about those people, mothers, fathers, grandparents, sitting in rooms somewhere, drugged into silence, while their children spent their money, and I thought about how close I'd come to joining them. "Why do you do this?" I asked Marcus. "This work?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "My mother. She was an immigrant from Haiti, worked 3 jobs to put me through college. After my father died, her second husband convinced her to add him to her bank accounts. By the time I found out what was happening, he'd taken everything. She died in a nursing home that cost $60 a day. I couldn't afford anything better because there was nothing left." "I'm so sorry." "She deserved better," Marcus said simply. "They all do. So now I make sure people like you get the ending she didn't." The next few months were a blur of lawyers and courtrooms and painful revelations. The evidence against Kevin was overwhelming. Emails, bank records, testimony from 3 other families whose elderly relatives had been committed to Meadowbrook under similar circumstances. Stephanie had been running this scheme for years, moving from husband to husband, using each one to access new victims. Kevin claimed he didn't know. He said Stephanie had manipulated him, that he never meant for things to go so far. But the emails told a different story. In one, dated just 6 weeks after Frank's funeral, he'd written to Stephanie, "Mom's more vulnerable than I expected. This might be easier than we thought." My own son had seen his father's death as an opportunity. Patricia flew in from Denver and stayed for 3 weeks. She held my hand through every court appearance, every meeting with investigators. She was the one who hired the forensic accountant to trace every dollar Kevin had taken. And she was the one who finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Mom, did you ever suspect, before all this?" We were sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee, watching the snow fall outside. I thought about it for a long time before answering. "I think I did," I finally said, "but I didn't want to see it. After your father died, I was so lonely. And Kevin was there. He was present. He seemed to care. And I wanted that so badly that I ignored everything else." Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. "That's not your fault. That's what manipulators do. They find the need and they fill it. Kevin knew exactly what you needed to hear." When did I become so easy to fool? You weren't fooled because you're weak, Mom. You were fooled because you loved him. There's a difference. The trial lasted 4 weeks. Kevin got 8 years. Stephanie got 12, her sentence extended because of her prior victims. Dr. Okafor lost her license and faces civil suits from multiple families. I sat in the courtroom when the verdicts were read. Kevin looked at me as the bailiff led him away, and for just a moment, I saw something in his face that might have been regret. But I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, no anger. Just a quiet emptiness where my son used to be.
And that's when I realized
It's
the
been
greatest
18 months
challenges
since that
are just
night.
opportunities
I still live in my
disguise.
house in Germantown.
It changed
The rental
everything.
properties are back under my control, managed by a company Patricia vetted thoroughly. My bank accounts have been largely restored, though some of the money Kevin spent will never be recovered. Patricia moved back to Philadelphia last spring. Her husband took a remote job, and my granddaughters enrolled in schools 10 minutes from my house. On Saturday mornings, they come over for pancakes. On Sunday afternoons, we bake cookies and watch movies. I never knew I could be this happy, my youngest granddaughter told me last week, her face covered in flour. "Grammy, your house is my favorite place." That's when I cried. The first time since it all happened. Marcus still checks in. He's married now to a wonderful woman named Denise, and they're expecting their first child in March. I told him I expect to be invited to the baby shower. "You were the first person I saved who actually became family," he told me. "Of course you're invited." I volunteer at the Adult Protective Services office now. I answer phones, talk to families who are scared, tell my story to anyone who needs to hear it. Last month, I helped identify a case similar to mine. A son in Bucks County who was trying to commit his mother to a facility in New Jersey to access her pension. We got to her in time. Just barely, but we got to her. Sometimes I wonder about Kevin. He'll be eligible for parole in 3 years. I've already told Patricia that I don't plan to see him, not ever. She supports that decision. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about the boy he used to be, the child who crawled into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who defended a smaller kid from bullies and came home with a black eye and a proud smile, the young man who cried at his father's funeral and told me he'd always take care of me. I don't know where that boy went. I don't know if he ever really existed or if I just invented him because I needed to believe my children were good. What I do know is this: family isn't blood. It isn't DNA or shared history or Thanksgiving dinners. Family is the stranger who whispers a warning in a doorway. Family is the daughter who makes a phone call because something doesn't feel right. Family is the people who show up when everything falls apart. I have that family now. Marcus and Denise, Patricia and her girls, the volunteers at APS who bring me coffee and tell me their own stories. They chose me, and I chose them back. 2 weeks ago, I was at the grocery store when an elderly woman stopped me in the produce section. "Excuse me," she said, her voice trembling. "I think I need help. My son has been asking me to sign some papers, and something doesn't feel right." I put down my tomatoes and gave her my full attention. "Tell me everything," I said. "And whatever you do, don't sign anything until we figure this out." We talked for 2 hours in the store's cafe. By the end, I had connected her with Marcus and his team. They're investigating now. I don't know how her story will end, but I know she's not alone anymore. And sometimes, that's enough. Trust is a funny thing. When you're young, you give it freely, like penny candy. As you get older, you learn to hold it closer, protect it, and when someone you love shatters it completely, you think you'll never trust anyone again. But you do. You have to. Because the alternative is spending whatever time you have left locked in a fortress of your own fear, and that's not living. That's just waiting to die. So I trust carefully now. I verify. I ask questions. I listen to the whispers in doorways and the warnings from strangers. And I remember every single day that the person who saved me wasn't my son, who I'd known for 40 years. It was a DoorDash driver in an Eagles cap who took 5 seconds to tell me the truth. 5 seconds. That's all it took to save everything. I hope you never need someone to whisper a warning to you. But if you do, I hope you're brave enough to listen. Did you like the story? And where are you listening from tonight? I always love hearing from people who understand what it means to survive something that should have broken you. Leave me a comment. Tell me your story, because you never know who might need to hear that they're not alone.